And I guess one thing maybe I can interject that I haven't heard anyone mention is that, um, and I don't mean to be negative about it, but it's interesting that we've got a Mr. Olympia who now is lost, and that's happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie lost his title, so to speak, and Jay Cutler lost his title, so to speak, relatively recently, and now Phil has lost, and that was really pretty unexpected. And there's been all this crazy mayhem that's evolved and come about since then. I don't. It's a different phenomenon than we've had before, and I think it's rightfully so that Phil didn't win this year.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. He just and even Sean Ray said this, and I thought this was the truth as well. His midsection just simply it was too glaring there. He was just unable to control it. I don't know how much of it's a function of his surgical procedure. You probably heard some of that. He mentioned that, and there was never a whole lot of clarity there, at least enough for me to say, okay, this makes sense.
Right.
But still, abdominal control is huge.
Right.
And, over the course of years of trying to eat enough food to maintain the muscle mass that he has, you just have a food baby,
right.
As it's known. And I liken it to being sort of mildly pregnant, for much of the year. And so that musculature, the connective tissue, the rectus abdominis and the transversus abdominis, all that musculature will slowly expand and lengthen. And we cast your arm with your biceps, your elbow flexors at a shortened position. The connective tissue will restructure itself, and when you come out of that cast, it takes quite a while to be able to lengthen that arm out again, stretch the biceps out again. So same thing's going to hold true when you've got someone who's maybe not done the posing they should have done, or not basically learned neurologically how to keep the abdominal musculature flat and keep the weight small, and thinking they can just kind of do that. And Steve posed the bejesus out of those guys too. He posed them really hard. And there was one point, I'm trying to remember if it was the prejudging or the finals. There was one point when I think they came back out, and I think that Phil probably had some water. Mm-hmm. He probably thought he was good to go. And the people who are listening who are competing will see this. This is another really interesting physiological thing where if you really dehydrated yourself to be dry on stage and you haven't had any water to drink, sometimes you just have that first, could be like a half a glass of water, and you'll start to sweat.
Yeah.
Like that. And you have to pee as well. Yeah. I mean, there's not much necessarily in your bladder, but it's like all of a sudden, and this is really cool. I mean, I don't even know what neural networks are involved with this, but it's pretty amazing because this has happened to me numerous times. And I think he probably went backstage, let them go off stage now, had a little bit of water. And when he came back out, he was sweating, like literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
And they worked him so hard that he didn't have the abdominal musculature control between poses and during some of the poses. And it just distracts the judge's eyes. Even if it's, just a small part of the time, when you keep on seeing that, basically it influences their overall perspective of his physique. And then, you're just going downhill at some point. There's the whole idea of the roid gut, so to speak, the increased organ size from the combination of growth hormone and insulin and maybe steroids. But that's why I call it a food baby. I really think that a lot of it comes from just having distended abdominal musculature. And I know people who have gotten really, really big and they're full all the time.
Yeah.
They may have a gut dysbiosis. It may be simply you're just constantly putting food through all the time, and there may be a partially impacted colon, or there's just a lot of food and a lot of poop in the colon, literally in the large intestine. And like I said, so that musculature is constantly extended like that. And you can hold that in, but you also have to breathe. And it's very, very difficult to learn how to just breathe by expanding your rib cage and not do diaphragmatic breathing, where your abdomen comes out, which is what you normally would do. And plus the day of you're on stage, you're dehydrated, you're exhausted, you're tired. So you're literally, at your wit's end to some degree in many, many cases. Sometimes you feel good, but a lot of times you don't feel all that good.
Right.
So if you haven't like literally brought yourself to a really, really practice again and again in that really, really fatigued place where you're breathing like a locomotive, because posing is really, really tough. It's very, very hard. If you haven't done that, then it's you just can't turn that on the day of the show. And I think a lot of guys are thinking, oh, I can just suck it up the day of the show. I can just make it happen. And it's just too much. It's just too difficult.